So right here on the desk is a recent deal we picked up for 500 Aussie dollars in October's used PC parts hunt of the month. So i7 6700, 16 gigabytes of DDR4 memory, and it's also an Alienware, I guess, with some fancy LEDs on it. And this is the thing about this, I'm not sure how this is going to go down because the Dell power brick over here is 330 watts. So it is a beast. It will indeed power a GTX 1066 gigabyte. We do have a fail-safe here, which is a GTX 1050 Ti, but what I was thinking was, with this build, 16 gigabytes of DDR4 memory is too good for either of these graphics cards in my opinion. 6700 as well, that can be used for a higher end build, and since we do have an i3 6100 and also 8 gigabytes of DDR4 memory, we can swap those over and then try and fit in a 1066 gigabyte and then upsell. But also with the upsell, we can then try and extract the 6700 and obviously the additional 8 gigabytes of DDR4 memory for another build. And since we do replace the i7, for example, with an i3, we will be using less power, and that will help with this case here because this side panel, if we see here, there's no airflow at all. It's completely blocked off. So I have read some comments, people saying this thing does overheat when you put a higher end graphics card in. So we are going to investigate first off with the 1060. We're going to try a reference model, of course, because anything else would just be dumping heat in such a small form factor. It's kind of working like a sarcophagus, and we don't want that to happen. The only areas of airflow seems to be at the top and at the bottom of the case. So it's really not looking that good. But for instance, if we can remove this plastic shroud as well, we may be able to get airflow going to the CPU a little bit better. i3 using less power, as we said before, and a 1060, and that would make a good gaming combo. The small form factor of this case is pretty appealing too. So let's get on with this. But you may also notice on the desk here, we've got another video coming. That'll be a Tech Yes Hurricane. A lot of you guys in the comments are asking for some Tech Yes lovin'. Hey, lovin' for days here. Go at it, guys. You get a heart from me. All right, so we tried this, and this is just not gonna fit at all. That was just wishful thinking, but at least with AV Jennings and you, if you're gonna buy some real estate, then...
This is the stuff that dreams are made of.
Yeah, dreams. So this graphics card's out of the picture now. Let's try a GTX 1066 gigabyte, but a smaller one. So I do have an Aero, but problem is it's not a reference like this, but we'll give it a shot anyway. Because I haven't done something like this the whole time I've been building PCs. Sure, I've cut myself, but not this bad. So lesson learned in point, always use the pliers on sharp things. Anyway, back to it. Also, if companies are looking like Final Mouse, for example, for a special blood spattered edition mouse, contact me, hit me up. So we now booted up the Alienware PC, and we've got the side panel off because I actually had to reset the CMOS to get it to boot off the graphics card essentially, but we also changed the RAM and the CPU, so it was a good thing to do that. But now we're gonna boot up a Unigine Heaven and run that for a good 10 minutes, and then after that we're gonna put the side panel on and see how much of a difference it makes. I've got some hopeful feelings that this will actually work out okay, because when I did the data vac, I blew out a lot of dust, especially out the front here, and there's actually a little fan that gives air to the graphics card. So CPU being the i3, as we said before, should be absolutely fine. I'm looking forward to some good results here. So it's currently 26 degrees in here. I actually had a lot of trouble setting this up initially. Windows wouldn't let the NVIDIA drivers install. I just put it down to a bad install of Windows. So I completely reinstalled Windows after it tried to update beforehand, and now everything's working after a fresh install. And we can see here after running this for about 40 minutes with the actual side panel off, we are getting around 82 degrees. So our stock setting, it is looking like it's thermal throttling. However, it doesn't look like it's thermal throttling that much. The GPU percentage is still up near 100%. So what we're gonna do now is we're actually gonna run a benchmark and see the score. And then we're gonna put the side panel on, run it for 40 minutes again, and then run the benchmark again to compare the before and after numbers. and that'll tell us how much the side panel on is affecting it versus off. Of course, in an ideal world, we'd just have it out of this sort of sarcophagus design. But it is 26 degrees ambient, so it is a little bit hotter. It is warming up here on the Gold Coast. So let's check out the score and then check out the side panel on. So we finished up the test. This is with the side panel on now. The graphics card is noticeably louder. The CPU is noticeably hotter as well. That went from low 60 degrees to now mid 70s. Graphics card is running near 90 degrees. It's actually hitting 90 degrees at times. But surprisingly, I thought it was thermal throttling because I thought there was a temp limit, at least based on these graphics cards, at 82 degrees, but I was wrong. And it actually hasn't throttled at all, going all the way up to 90 degrees still. The scores, I've ran 3 runs, both after the side panel's on and before, and they're pretty similar. The scores are pretty similar. It is a little bit better with the side panel off, but I think we can jump on to a conclusion now with our little Alienware friend. So here we are, and yeah, I got the busted up thumb. It hurts, don't worry, but we got the Alienware R3 desktop. It's tested, and it had originally had a 6700 in it, the i7, and I didn't even know originally what graphics card it has in there, but there was 2 6-pins left over, so we're easily using less power than the previous setup than this thing comes out of the box with, so it's not a healthy scenario, and the graphics card's hitting 90 degrees, so I don't know what's going on here, but since the Alienware itself, it does look good. It's got the RGB bling, it's got the small form factor. I just think if I go to flip this, I'm gonna definitely tell the person who comes to pick it up, look, you might wanna leave the side panel off, definitely in the summer, but when it comes to the winter, it should be okay. I mean, the graphics card itself was hitting max 93% fan speeds, and it's still hitting 90 degrees, so it's not a healthy long-term thing, but surprisingly nothing was throttling. The benchmarks in Heaven still ran fine before and after, and it seems to be the i3 with the 1066GB is the max that you'd want to put inside this small form factor case. Sure, I could go put some speed holes in the side and start hacking up the case, but then whoever wants to buy it for the looks and the small form factor is then going to lose that appeal, and it's going to turn into a typical tech yes hack job with the lower end builds. But since this sort of doesn't have that lower end appeal to it, I do want to keep it the way it is, sort of. So a little bit of a weird predicament. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments about this build itself, this desktop, and what I should do. I mean, I do like the small form factor of it. I do like the look. I just am not really liking those temperatures, both, even on the CPU, the i3. I mean, Heaven's not particularly a CPU intense benchmark, and it's still getting to 75 degrees. So it kind of seems like a bit of a toaster oven going on inside, but regardless, it still does work. But the best thing to come out of this deal is that we've pulled out now a 6700. We've got 16 gigabytes of RAM, and we can put that in with a motherboard, and it should be really good in another build with, say, a 1070 Ti or something. So that's the beauty of sort of mixing and matching parts. If you get a few builds on hand, you can then mix and match and start piecing together the best value systems at different price points. I thought, damn, 6700 with 16 gigabytes of RAM is starting to look pretty good. So we've definitely made some value out of this build, but as I said before, I'm surprised there was a 6700 and a more power consuming graphics card in there beforehand. And of course, we picked this build up for 500 Aussie dollars, and we've added a 1060 in, which I got for $240. So that leaves us with a price tag of $740, but I'm probably gonna ask around $799 for it. And keep in mind, we have taken out the i7, we've also taken out 16 gigabytes of RAM, and we've replaced it with an i3 and also 8 gigabytes of RAM. So that's the main appeal out of picking up this deal right here. And also in relation to the thumb, I mean, it's just one of those freak accidents that happens. That thing that I took off did help the graphics card fit, and I have had this problem in the past where those little silver brackets do cause problems with fitting graphics cards, at least perfectly, and just making it an easy fit. And so I usually just rip them out, but this one was so sharp. And it was like one of those things where the force just suddenly broke, and then like my finger sort of went back, and yeah, I don't know. Again, definitely when it comes to things that even could be really sharp, then I'm gonna proceed with a pair of pliers. I've learned my lesson, don't worry. Also a big shout out to Dr. Nelson down the road, who's just, I walked in there, he stitched me up straight away, like so quick, so efficient. really good job on fixing my thumb up really quickly. Like, I was surprised. I was like, wow, I'm gonna be out of action for a while, but no, he just stitched me up. And sure, it does hurt. Like, it hurts a lot even now, like throbbing pain. But yeah, I can still work, still get that grind going, baby. Yay. Anyway guys, hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, then be sure to slap that like button with a normal thumb. Hopefully you're not sporting a thumb like I've got here. But we've got on the desk a heap of deals from PCs, and we're gonna be doing a Tech Yes Hurricane, so stay tuned for that, and I'll catch you in another tech video very soon. And also make sure you get your Tech Yes loving in the comments, and if you want to check out some of the new merch, I'll put the link for that in the description below. I'm not actually wearing it right now.